Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Under the Radar. We'd like to thank all of our listeners for coming around again, and if you're new here, welcome to The Gong Show. Today, we're going to cover quite a few topics, ranging from Planetside to our Warhammer and Overwatch impressions. And, of course, it always ends in story time.
Story time!
Story time, all the time. Party, party, yeah.
Which was like a third of our episode last time. We had some immensely long stories last week.
We hope they were entertaining, though we might have drawled on quite a long time.
I mean, I'm not biased or anything, but I liked it.
So, I have a story that might literally just take up a third of the podcast, but it's a good one, I promise.
Okay, so we should
Damn well
get
better
this
be.
show on the road so you can take up a third.
That'd probably be good.
All right. Yeah, hopefully we got most of the housekeeping out of the way last podcast. So we're not going to really go over that much. I guess the only thing we wanted to kind of throw out there is, since we're expanding the podcast beyond Planetside, if there's anything our listeners might want to see more specifically from us in the future, we've definitely got plenty of ideas ourselves, but we've always, done our viewer emails and viewer feedback before, so yes, we're just opening up the forum, so to speak, in terms of what people would like to see from the podcast in general or specifically. We got ideas of our own, and we'll discuss that amongst ourselves and kind of incorporate that as we go, depending on what we're going to do. But obviously, since we're expanding beyond Planetside 2, we want anyone else who's kind of been our core audience from Planetside 2 to begin with to have a bit of a say. So let us know, comments or email, doesn't matter. Beyond that, I think we're just going to move into our topics today. So I'm going to talk a bit about Planetside 2 and engagement radar specifically. And Ginger will kind of go off of that with probably this email question now and his topic on construction, and probably talk a little bit about Overwatch, and then Roids will talk about Warhammer and probably a little bit about Overwatch with Ginger as well. Considering both those games just came out, it's going to be a little circle jerky. So, without further ado, I'll just jump right into my topic. And I apologize, I'm probably going to soapbox a little bit here, but just seeing all the feedback on engagement radar being default now, as I guess you could say it's rustles my jimmies a little bit. It hasn't really that much, but I guess it's the general attitude I'm seeing about it that has. So I'm going to probably soapbox a bit. I hope you guys, whether you agree or disagree, are definitely going to play the devil's advocate and disagree just for the sake of argument, because it's probably going to be needed after this.
Really quick, this isn't on live yet, right?
No, everything's still on test server. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm in my Overwatch hole.
It's still on test server. That being said, though, and since I'm just talking about engagement radar specifically right now, Rail's pretty dead set about the engagement radar being default and going to live like that. So maybe that's why everyone's kind of focusing on that with more fervor in their arguments, but we'll see. Anyways, for the most part, people are just bitching about engagement radar being default. I guess the range of 600 meters is a big issue. I personally don't feel like it should be. I don't think 600 meters is all that much in the air in a fighter.
Considering, the space you cover in the time you do. And very rarely does an aircraft, when on engagement radar, show up properly on your radar anyways, so.
And I just need, even that, like 600 meters in the fastest vehicle in the game, that you're not going to cover it any faster than with your fighter, so I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like a big deal. I guess everyone just thinks 600 meters is too much, so I wouldn't mind maybe rolling back the max range a bit, but I just don't personally see the reason to. But beyond that, essentially the arguments I'm seeing from people is that engagement radar is going to completely break ganking. And that's what it boils down to, is that it's going to totally ruin jumping an opponent or using stealth or being sneaky or any of that. And what does that what does that translate to in Planetside 2? Ganking. And I find it funny that people seem to be defending ganking in general because of this engagement radar change. And what irks me the most about that, I guess, beyond the fact that it's ganking and who has ever liked that in the past, but it's like every single pilot is assuming right now that because everyone's going to have engagement radar, that all the new pilots are somehow going to be fucking 110% proficient with that and use that to the best of their abilities. And that's just not true. Obviously, good pilots who've been around long enough to develop their own situational awareness, they won't need it as much, but they can still utilize it to the fullest of its extent. But new pilots probably won't as much. They'll get a little bit of help out of it, though, because it's essentially training wheels, right? So in any case, the engagement radar, it's not something that matters unless you use it. So just simply having it does not mean somebody just got buffed their situational awareness like 100% or anything. You have to still be aware. Your situational awareness is not completely tied to that engagement radar. And, it's your overall skills as a pilot don't really take much of a hit just because of that.
No, if anything, it transitions over even better. It benefits pilots that tend to check their peripherals and their radar more often.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really see an issue because everyone will have it. So, of course, playstyles will probably adjust accordingly. But at the same time, when you're in the middle of some of those really intense duels, often you aren't paying attention to secondary sound cues or your radar at times.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate now.
Okay.
Go for it.
So you guys are, it sounds like you're saying that this tool is only useful, like you said, if you know how to use it, and
not just if you know how to use it, if you use it. If you
Right.
choose to ignore the fact that you've got planes shown up on radar, then what good is it, right?
Right. But so, the more experienced you are, the more likely you are to use it. But isn't this supposed to be a new player helpful tool, as, pretty much Rel said himself?
Yeah,
So
theoretically.
if you're more likely to use it, the more comfortable you are in the air, then how is this a new player tool?
But I guess I don't know how to word this any other way than you just have to use it for it to be useful. That sounds so simple and stupid, but I just feel the attitude of most pilots is they're expecting every new pilot who could benefit from this is going to benefit perfectly from it. And that alone is going to be enough to, just ruin ganking and stealth play in general. That's kind of the attitude that I'm more irked with.
But do you still show up if you have stealth on engagement radar?
No, that's the other thing I was getting to, is stealth has always negated engagement radar, and it still will. Just because it's default on all ESFs now, people are throwing a hissy fit. So stealth to engagement radar has had zero change in terms of how its mechanics work. Stealth will still negate radar, and you won't show up. So now you have, I guess, a more direct reason to run stealth, so you can defeat both radar and, being spotted, but that's not as huge a thing in the air as being spotted on radar, but also to defeat lock-ons a bit with the extra lock-on time. But it gives stealth that more direct counter. And that's what stealth should fucking be. It's about being sneaky.
I'll also piggyback off of that. If you're running against a guy that has stealth, and as far as new player experience goes, they're still not going to understand sound cues and the distance in which that sound is, or is that reaver going full afterburner after me? Is it screaming at me, or is it just, cruising along waiting for its chance to jump on me kind of thing? So I don't think you're going to see a lot of change either way. But that's just me. And if anything, it'll help the person that checks their radar often, because you won't have to listen to the sound cues quite as much.
True, and it's a bit of a side issue. I guess it's kind of related, but for the most part, sounds have actually I don't know why, but they've been toned down, and it's actually pretty difficult to hear fighters and their engines until they're practically right on you, more or less. It's definitely overall feels quieter than it used to be, years ago. So I don't know what happened there. I don't feel like it was intentional, but that's a different topic. It's a little bit related, but not entirely. I want to focus on the engagement radar. So, I guess that's just what it boils down to for me. Is I see people getting butthurt that essentially ganking is going to be nerfed, and it's taken maybe a slight nerf, but it's got the direct counter still with stealth. I mean, I don't know. I guess people don't want to be forced to run stealth when they feel either composite armor is too good or too bad, which I've actually heard some people think it's too good, and some people think it's too shitty, and they're just going to run stealth anyway. So that's a different topic too, but...
Okay. Can I just
go in? Yeah. Devil's advocate me, because I'm running out.
No, I just wanted to ask, is Nanite Auto Repair... that wasn't on the PTS change, but is that still planned to become default, or...
It's not yet, if it is. If it is, I doubt it's going to be with the air update.
I could see all vehicles going towards a nanite auto repair
as
a default thing, which would be actually quite nice considering the sheer amount of damage infantry can output on vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm cool. I don't think it's worth really talking about stealth as a counter to this engagement radar thing unless you make nanite auto repair default.
Well,
I get, and I know that's not a super strong argument because I'm sort of almost saying that nanite auto repair is mandatory and you must take it, and that's not true. But it's so annoying to not take it that
I know.
I almost want to make that argument anyway. So
I think if we see it, it's gonna have to be something that applies to all vehicles at once, so not just air. So it kind of sucks when we're talking balance, hoping that it's going to happen now, but it probably won't with the rest of the air changes. But yeah, we just got to bite the bullet on that one.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think this is the big counter argument with this, is that there's no ace pilot out there who really wants to bite the bullet right now. Like, oh good, another round of air changes, another round of biting the bullet. What's new now?
Yeah.
Oh, now we have coyotes. Now we have everyone getting engagement radar, and my screen is filled with little dots, and people... stealth play is now not going to be relevant anymore, and it's going to get harder. And every patch it's gotten harder, and it's going to keep getting harder. And nobody has been thrown like the air game has not been improved. And the biggest thing to come out of this patch, which everyone, including Rel, thinks is the biggest thing, is this negative thing for aces. It takes away a component of the game for the sake of new players, and it's not being swapped in with anything. There's no real dynamic happening. It's just kind of making it worse, I think, is the argument.
Diluting it, I guess.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I think
I could agree to that, but
I think that's where people are coming from.
But at the same time, everyone complains about how there's a lack of fresh blood in the air game, or there's just a lack of pilots in general. And I don't know if this will help or hinder in either way, but at the same time, you can always revoke a change if it's that terrible.
Yeah, the way I see it, where the pilot community or just air in general is pretty much stagnated. It's not really getting better. This might not make it much better. It might help a little bit, but I feel like no matter what we do, nothing's going to be perfect. Especially, I mean, if there's one thing I like about this is pilots are probably the most passionate players are in Planetside right now for the most part. I mean, you saw the air change thread go up, just hundreds of upvotes and a shit ton of feedback, and these were overall pretty minor changes, and tons of pilots got on test server to test them out and try to get good feedback. So if there's one thing I'm proud of about that, is just how passionate pilots are about doing something, and that's nice to see. But that's going a little bit off topic.
Sounding very corporate there, Hater.
I know, right?
We love how passionate our community is.
So passionate. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I don't have much more to say on that. I mean, I just saw one Reddit post that said, here, let me read it. Attempting to gank a hovering lol potter is pretty much impossible with the new engagement radar. And I don't know, that just felt so bullshit to me. Like, I don't feel like it's going to be that bad. There might be a bit of a meta shift that we'll have to get used to, but I just don't see this being that bad of a change to where that becomes true.
If you're that in love with ganking, you maybe change to a racer airframe or something if you're not already on it. I don't know what to tell you, but
to me, only the Reaver would suffer, I guess, in that case, because the Reaver does definitely have to kind of rush and get close and make the most of that DPS that it has at close range.
I'd argue that the Mustang is so good as it is that I don't know. That weapon is monstrous. That's like, it's better as far as DPS goes than the Mosquito rotary with way more accuracy.
Yeah, but the fact that the Reaver's refrigerator sometimes offsets that. And that's maybe not as much for good pilots, but definitely for newer pilots who don't have the aim to really make the DPS of the Reaver stand out, and then they're flying a giant refrigerator, and that hinders them quite a bit. I mean, there's been talk about the Scythe hitbox probably needing to get increased to really
I'd like to see just a complete redesign on the Scythe, because its pancake profile is so massively huge that it just eats flak and Dalton shells like none other, as well as it's really susceptible in team fights to getting ganked by a secondary pilot. And then when you're facing it one-on-one, it just feels really bullshit because you're just aiming at this little sliver of sky, basically.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that hitboxes or ESFs on ESFs are sort of a problem in the way that... Because I think what we have now is this specialization where Reavers are the close-range aircraft and Scythes are the long-range aircraft, and Mosquitoes are somewhere in the middle. And we could make them all equal and not different in any way by screwing with the hitbox and the guns and everything. Or we could make it so there are interesting advantages and disadvantages to having the hitboxes instead of shitty ones. So, like, right now, the Reaver is better in an airball. It's the best thing to have when you're going, like, squad v squad combat. But that, like, air squads aren't a super healthy thing to have right now, which I've been saying a lot, and I'm going to say it again. And, like, it's a whole nother problem of its own, and Scythes are kind of boring on live because you have to ping people a lot longer in order to kill them than you do in a Reaver.
Well, I'd argue that team play or faction-wide play needs to be more important for air to be involved, because currently, and for the longest time, air is currently about roaming and finding a fight somewhere to go and shoot other pilots rather than supporting a greater whole or a push or anything like that. And I'm not talking about lolpotting or anything like that. Air needs actual objectives in order that contribute to a larger fight. I'm not sure how you do that. If you give air control points or certain bubbles in which to focus fighting, or a lock-on free zone directly over a base or something like that in order for them to defend their friendlies, stuff like that. I don't know how you go about it, but
I mean, yeah, I think that's the overall solution to the hitbox thing is because if you have an objective for air to combat to the point where they're going to a fight instead of roaming to a continent, instead of roaming a continent, they're going to a fight and fighting that fight at a base, then you're suddenly thinking, okay, so I can play NC and choose a Reaver if I like to be in a squad and I'm going to go to fights with a lot of people around, or I can play VS and a Scythe and try to go to smaller fights and, use my hover advantage to beat people in 1-on-1s or 1-on-2s. So that makes it interesting. I think a lot of issues in this game kind of come back to the whole list of things for planes to do in this game not being super great or interesting or healthy.
Because it originally was just us farming things, and that was terrible in its own right because of how powerful it was.
You gotta reap the harvest. It's important. Anyways, I guess I'll just wrap up my point here. I don't think engagement radar is going to be a huge problem if it goes live as is. Honestly, it's not going to make somebody magically aim better It's not really going to improve their situational awareness that much, but it should give newer pilots a bit of, I guess, a confidence boost in one way or another to be in the air and practice more. We'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. And then, of course, veteran pilots probably won't need it. And I guess the worst we can see is them utilizing the radar to see where targets are more quickly than they used to. I mean, I don't feel like we're going to see like what we saw with Tomcats before, where, new pilots using them really didn't do well. But if an ace was using Tomcats, then you were just fucked. I don't think we'll see that kind of situation with an engagement radar, at least to that degree. So maybe I'll be proven wrong, maybe not. But I'm going to say no right
if
now.
anything, you're going to get more of a kiting game, and it'll be a longer, drawn-out fight, which generally ends up the more interesting and the more fun gameplay.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I could be completely wrong on my impressions as well, so who knows?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go with no. It's not going to be that big a deal. Stop being butthurt, you pussies. Ginger, your turn. On that note.
All right. I'm going to read the email now. Hopefully it's nice. First off, thanks for making... This is from Marius fucking Brock. Sorry, that's a really funny name. Thank you, Marius fucking Brock.
Oh,
no. Good morning, fellow pilots. First off, thanks for making the podcast. It makes one of my working hours per week vastly less boring. I'd like to propose one topic for discussion. What if all ESF weapons occupied the same weapon slot? Essentially, the Reddit thread... I think there's one Stroff probably made. Summarizes my thoughts, but unfortunately doesn't get too much attention. Have fun reading. And hater, just accept that your nose gun Hornet loadout is maybe a wee bit too good all around. Best regards, Troy7C8.
Thanks for the email, Troy.
So since he bashed Hornets, we're just gonna skip that and move on.
Oh, hang on. Okay, so he has a Reddit thread here. Troy's it's a Reddit thread sort of pushing or suggesting air-to-air secondaries. I'm going to say air-to-air secondaries specifically because he didn't talk about Hornets or Lawpods at all. I don't think. I hope I didn't just miss it. Being all one slot. So you only get a primary weapon slot, and of that are also Coyotes and Tomcats. Now, my reaction to this is I don't like it. The main reason for that is because Coyotes aren't... I don't think the issue with Coyotes right now... One of the things he says, is that the big problem with Coyotes is that people will alternate between their primary nose gun and their Coyotes in order to do more damage than they should and be able to sort of undermine an ace and totally counter hover, basically. I'm not totally on board with that. I think actually the real problem was that people were using Coyotes as primaries in the first place, which is literally what this person is arguing for. Basically, he's saying that Coyotes could be used as a primary weapon where you have an advantage against somebody in hover, because they'll aim for you. And to that I would sort of retort, then what's the point of hovering if there's just going to be a gun that will, damage you anyway? And this was, at least in my experience, and I think a lot of other people's experience, what sort of happened with released Coyotes, and the people would just rush them and keep flying forward and just keep drilling Coyotes into them. And if the person defending against that was at any sort of health disadvantage already, the person with Coyotes would probably win. Probably get enough Coyotes in, just primary weaponing the Coyotes into them, and everything would be great for them. I think actually the direction we're going with this right now is great, having a long enough reload speed so that you're getting one or two Coyote bursts in a dogfight, and then that's that. I think actually 4.5 down to 4 seconds is the perfect amount of time. That's very, that's long enough that you can sort of think, okay, the next burst is about to come. I need to get ready and do something about this. There's some room. There's a big enough gap that you can do some crazy maneuver and try to deal with it. There's a bit of a demand on you and there's a bit of a demand on the person. Having that reload time be cut down and then having them be primary, I think would literally just be, let's make a nose gun that undermines hover. And I don't think you could balance that in a way where, because either it's going to undermine hover so much that it's a problem, or it's going to be useless, because literally the point of a nose gun with auto aim would be to undermine hover. And that's not a super good mechanic.
I feel like in the end it'd all be useless more than OP in that case.
Yeah, and Hater and I actually talked about this out of podcast, and I didn't realize the reload solution until Prel had actually said that we were going ahead and doing it, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot, reload totally solved this problem. Like, having long reload speed is the way to fix coyotes.
And I liked how we went with not necessarily the base reload speed, but the utility for it, because on Hornets and Coyotes it was like a full second. So I think reducing that is a good way to go first. That way you don't nerf it so hard that it can't come back, but with the attachment, it's a little more easy to control, I guess. But yeah, besides the point.
Yeah, no, I definitely think what's already happening is fine. And I had somebody else make that suggestion too. I really can't get behind that, making Coyotes and Tomcats primaries. That doesn't.
When I think of that, I can't see Tomcats in their current iteration on test server. If they were the only weapon you could have, no one would fucking use them. Because now they're, I mean, unless you are just barely within your minimum range behind someone with Tomcats and you need to get 5 missiles off before they can react and come at you, no, you can't do that with just Tomcats anymore. And Coyotes will have a little bit easier time, but even then, I just don't feel like that's a worthwhile setup for anyone to ever want to run.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not good with a nose gun.
Yeah. Tomcats are the same way. In their current iteration on test, they are useless and no one would run them ever for any situation if they were a primary. If they were to change the iteration and make them stronger against ESFs, suddenly you're again on the same sliding scale you'd have with Coyotes, where they're either too weak that no one would use them, or they're so strong that they undermine regular flying and hover. Like, there is no middle ground. There's no balance point there, because it's just not a good mechanic. So
I think what might be more interesting potentially is either more nerfs to reload speed, depending, but hopefully that gets in a good spot, or making it so you can't backpack reload. And I kind of use that term because it stuck with me since I used to play Halo PC, and that was a thing, but that was a glitch, and I wouldn't say the ability for ESFs to reload their other weapon while firing their other one is necessarily a glitch or a bug. Seems intended, or at least it's been around forever, so I'm gonna say it is. But what if that became a thing? You cannot fire your other weapon while the other one's reloading.
I think that would force people to main Coyotes as a primary weapon. Because you think about it, you fire your salvo of Coyotes. Now if you want to use Coyotes ever again, you have to wait for the reload. So, okay, I'll wait for the reload. Like, maybe it's 3 seconds now. 3 seconds.
But what if Coyotes are OP enough?
Fire the Coyotes. Huh.
But that's the thing is, maybe people think Coyotes are too OP with the nose gun, and good reload speed. So hopefully with their less reload speed, they're not as good. But let's say they kept their good reload speed, but you couldn't reload them while firing your nose gun. So maybe you open up with a volley of Coyotes. If you have enough time while your target's turning around, you can either go with a reload for the Coyotes or switch to your nose gun. But yeah, you get a good alpha strike out of it, I guess. So is that a better way to go with them than what they're doing?
I don't think so. Like, you are basically saying you get one salvo of each, and then you have to treat one of them like a primary nose gun, which we just went into saying was the problem.
Yeah.
So,
potentially, yeah. I'm not a fan of it either. I feel like it would... I actually feel like I said the opposite before, but now I'm thinking maybe that would even benefit air to ground more than it would air to air. not being able to backpack reload.
Oh,
Like a Hornet nose gun or rocket pod nose gun setup.
oh god, that
nerfing.
would be devastating.
Yeah, that would definitely nerf the air-to-ground capabilities of fighters more. So whether that would be good or bad long run, though.
Okay. I think Hornets just need to be put in a place where, like, I know Rel can't do it, but he's got to figure out a way to nerf them against main battle tanks. I think they're fine everywhere else.
They don't really need to be nerfed against main battle tanks. Just they kind of do, yes, but I think the biggest thing was that they take 4 rear armor hits to kill, and it also takes 4 on a lightning. So there's no difference between a lightning and a main battle tank in that regard. And that sucks. That does suck. I get that.
That's
As
what
an
I'm saying.
avid Hornet user, don't worry. I understand that, but at the same time, if you nerf Hornets too much against tanks, what the fuck else would I want to use them for?
Right.
I mean, they're pretty good at killing Sunderers, but you have to be in a group. Like, if you're killing a Sundy on your own with just Hornets, nobody's defending it. I guarantee you. Yeah.
What if you push the team play even further? What if you gave everyone 1 Hornet missile, and then you buff the damage a little bit, so it was like 3 shots? So one guy can't go solo ham on any said main battle tank, but a group of them could alpha hit for quite a lot.
I would like that, personally. That would be more fun. Balance-wise, I don't know how much it would change, really, but I think it would be more fun, because we already have enough fun just coordinating Hornet strikes as a group already, so...
And it pushes the amount of ESFs needed to do it up to 3 versus just the current 2. But you have to be perfect with the 2, of course.
Okay, so let me sort of see if I can get you guys to approach Hornets the same way I approach them. You're flying alone. You have Hornets. You versus a Skyguard who's not paying attention. Who should win?
If you line up the rear shots...
He'd really
probably the
have to
ESF.
not be paying attention.
Yeah, and that... I don't think there's
okay,
a way you should be...
sorry. I'll make that more specific. You versus a Skyguard who does not notice you until you get 2 in the butt. Who should win?
You'll probably win either way, but at the same time...
E
I'm just saying should. Like, if you have Hornets
for
equipped,
counter,
the anti-arm... Oh, sorry.
The ESF. The ESF. And my argument there is, if he's a fucking Skyguard, and he's not paying attention to the air enough to notice you, then that's his fault. Cool. Yeah, I mean, if you're in a Skyguard, I feel like you've got one job, because what else is your Skyguard gonna do except kind of plink at tanks with just enough damage to gank a kill from someone,
But
you should be
I got a
focused on the
minigun.
air.
I'm going after infantry.
Okay, next up. You versus a lonely main battle tank.
Hit 3 in the rear.
You should win.
You should win because...
You should win, but it should take longer, and the main battle tank should have a chance to get out. Because currently it's 4, so it's 2 passes, and he's done.
I agree.
Whereas if you give him 3 passes, that's different. But at the same time, you're giving 3 passes to a lightning, which I don't necessarily agree with.
Right. So, glad we all agree on that so far. Next one, you versus a flak turret who doesn't see you until you get 2 shots into him. Who should win?
Are we talking base turrets or construction turrets?
Oh god, base turrets. Fuck.
Okay,
yeah. Talk about
construction turrets. Fuck those things. Those things take way too much damage from Hornets. But base turrets, yeah. That one's a little tougher, I guess. But I think because turrets auto-repair themselves now, because I'm pretty sure they do. I actually haven't really paid attention to that because I fly so much, but I'm pretty sure turrets auto-repair after they've been destroyed, regardless of if there's an engine repairing them, so I kind of err on the side of the ESF in that case, just slightly.
Okay, well, they are harder to hit than Skyguards in the butt who aren't paying attention. Like, they're really small.
Well, there's no critical point on turrets, is the thing. So you just gotta hit them.
It's still the same amount of time spent.
Yeah.
Assuming you hit everything, it's just harder to hit everything. So, okay, cool. That's sort of where I'm at with this. I think I agree with you guys on all of those things. if there were to be some Hornet change, I wouldn't want it to be this sweeping change where it's like, now it takes 3, now it takes 2. I just think everything that we talked about should happen with a Hornet change. And I think all we really think that needs to change of what I brought up is the main battle tank thing.
Yeah, rear shots on the main battle tank, I'm fine with changing because it gives you reason to have the main battle tank over the lightning in terms of your anti-air defense, because otherwise 4 shots to the lightning or 4 shots to the ass of the main battle tank, you're both dead either way. It doesn't matter to me.
But yeah, mostly right now, especially the TR is hurt right now by the current
Prowler lockdown.
Hornet balance, just because the way lockdown works. If you're using lockdown, if you're not using lockdown, then
yeah, and Prowlers are like part of. I'm assuming
and the Rider can always just spin around.
Yeah, I'm assuming at least that part of being in a Prowler well is finding a point that's maybe away from the repair Sunday and posting up there and locking down and getting a good vantage point where you're far from help. And that makes them the easiest to kill, which is, I would say, is sort of the biggest problem, but I have no idea how to fix that.
I don't think it's a Hornet-related issues, is the thing, though. That, I'm sorry, but I have no sympathy for any tank that is completely alone, and I Hornet them and kill them. Especially if it's a main battle tank, more so than a lightning, because a lightning, it's a solo man tank. It's pretty cheap comparatively, sort of. Maybe not. Never mind that point. But obviously, if you're not a Skyguard lightning, you're kind of fucked. But hey, it's just you. If you got a main battle tank though, and you've got that option for a secondary turret to be an AA turret or some sort of AA defense, and you don't, and you go off on your own, well, I'm sorry, that's your fucking problem. You specifically spec'd into whatever it was, probably, anti-vehicle, and I specifically spec'd into my anti-vehicle. And you are a lone tank in the middle of nowhere. Of course I'm going to kill you. I don't even need rear shots for that.
Okay. I agree with that. Then again, we are pilots who need tanker perspectives for this too.
Yeah.
We should probably move on.
I'm being incredibly biased, but hopefully that just stirs up enough salt that we get some emails. It's all part of the plan.
utrpodcast@gmail.com.
Email us and tell us why you hate Hater and his Sky Knight bullshit.
Exactly. All right. So should we go into my topics?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh, well, this email, right, that we were talking about forever ago was my topic, so I guess we're already there. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, although we've spent so much time on my topics already, I wanted to do construction, but I think we'll just cover that next week.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I have Overwatch marked down as well. Overwatch released 2 days ago on the 23rd at 4 p.m. and it is now the 25th at 7 p.m. and I am level 27. I have put probably 24 hours into that game. And, oh my god, I love Genji. I cannot get enough of that video game, and I cannot get enough of Genji.
Mada.
I got that voice line.
Mada.
God, I showed you, right? We were playing.
Yes, you did. When we were together.
So, we're now both playing over. How much are you going to be playing Overwatch?
I'm going to probably be playing it far more casually than you are. But I still enjoy it until I get salty, and then it becomes Salt Watch.
Right.
Just because it's a very team-oriented game, and a lot of people, at least newer players, approach it as a I kill enemies game, and it's very much objective-based.
Yeah, I am. Genji is sort of supposed to be playing team deathmatch. In a way, you're supposed to be harrowing people and keeping them from getting to the point and hopefully not dying and, outplaying and all that fun stuff.
That's what a Genji does. And,
right.
And a Tracer does to that extent. They're harassers. They're going around the sides and so can go solo, whatever. But when you see Soldier 76 or something soloing in the back lines, or a Roadhog doing that or something, then I just start to rage, because it's just totally not that person's job to be there in that position.
Right. No, yeah, don't worry. I wasn't trying to shift guilt away from myself. You are supposed to be a kill whore with Genji. But I've noticed that, Genji is supposed to be in the back line. He's so mobile and harassy and everything that you would think he's, off doing his own thing. But I've noticed, even how cohesive my team is on the other end of the map makes so much of a difference when I'm playing Genji. Because I played with a pre-made who could just hold their own without me, and they would apply pressure, and it would, I wouldn't have people peeling off the front line to come finish me off as I was trying to get to a health pack because they were busy and they were kept busy, and I could sort of have my fun. So like even if you're far away and on your team deathmatch mode on the other end of the map, like the objective play and the team cohesiveness matters so much in that game. It's awesome. And I've noticed it's way more fun with a group.
Absolutely. The more people you can get in, the better.
I'm trying to load up on friends who don't play harassers, like who play Mercy and Reinhardt. That way, the slot's always free for me.
Reinhardt is love. Reinhardt is life.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to know what it was to be a giant mech warrior with a shield and a rocket hammer, play Reinhardt.
We should stream Overwatch. I'm going to start streaming Overwatch. I need to start streaming Overwatch.
Do it. We'll need podcast background footage. And at some point, we should probably do like a stream podcast of Planetside 2 and Overwatch and Warhammer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some downsides to Overwatch. Besides, I guess let's cover the good, because it's got great art. It's got amazing voice lines. The team play is a lot of fun, I've found.
I feel like I'm in an episode of Captain Planet in that game. Like, everyone is just so... Like, there's so much attention to detail that you feel like you're just with these heroes doing this thing. Like, have you ever noticed, like, when you play Hanzo, that you know how he does that, like, weeboo walk, where he does that, like, tap, 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 like, runs on his tippy toes,
Yep.
If you're playing as him, that's how the screen jiggles, as if you were running that way whenever he runs around. And it's really subtle, but I noticed it. It's so intense. Like, there's so much attention to detail, and all the animations are top notch. It just feels like I'm in this Captain Planet episode with this cast of characters from around the world and from the Soviet Union. Zarya with the power of explosions. I don't know if I already made that joke, but
yeah.
Oh my god.
I would love to see Overwatch actually on the scale of Planetside. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh god.
and utter chaos, and it would be so different, but that's a weird little whatever. But the negatives, I found some map balance is a little screwy, because some maps you win the first point and you're immediately to the second, and then you just effed the other team up so bad that you just win the whole map.
So you complained about that, and I consistently try to do it every time I'm on offense. Every single time, as Genji. Like, I'm running ahead of my team and trying to get to that second point, and I've gotten one tick once, and that's it. And I've never had it happen to me where they just rush in and cap it before we can get set up.
I've never had it happen to my team, but I've done it to other teams where the match was over in a minute and 30 seconds.
Wow.
It was just over. We won the first map, the first point, we wiped them. We went to the second point, and then they streamed in. And obviously this is not a very well coordinated team, but it's the Russia map. I forget what that one's called off the top of my head.
Volskaya Industries.
Yes, thank you very much. But as soon as you cap that first point, the second point's not far away, and you just jaunt on over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if your flankers can get there before the other team respawns, that's one thing. But as soon as you can get your tanks and stuff already there and set up as they're coming out of their spawn tubes, I think that's an issue.
Yeah, for sure. I think honestly the 2-point capture maps are the weaker ones. That game mode is just kind of weaker because it sort of just evolves into this game of, okay, take the really easy first point, and then you have 7 minutes to take the second point. Keep beating your head against the wall until you hopefully break them, and then take the point, and one successful team fight will win you the game. It's like, it's really not that interesting. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think Overwatch is... Sorry, go ahead.
I think the objective payload hybrid maps are great. I don't think they have that problem, but I I don't find the 2-point objective ones as much fun. Like, I really don't like the Temple of Anubis second base. I think that's way too easy to defend.
No, I agree with that. I prefer the hybrid ones to anything. But I do like the King of the Hill style. Hold the point until you're at 100%. I think that's also when it's at its finest. I don't like just pure payload or pure cap this point, then go to the next point.
Okay, I like the pure payload. I don't have any criticisms for it. But to each his own.
Absolutely, but overall, great game.
Totally. I'm gonna be playing the shit out of it for a long time. This is gonna be the next League of Legends for me. I'm gonna be pro, and it's gonna be. I'm gonna go pro as Genji. I'm calling it. It's gonna happen.
Guys, I know one hero, so yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Speaking of Genji, I played against Genji earlier that pretty much solo won his team the match. It just so good.
Was it me?
No. I haven't played against you yet, so I don't know. But Farah, a character that flies around, and I was flying around in the air, and this guy was timing his dashes properly, so he was streaking to me in the air and intercepting me. And
I love having an airborne fight with Farah as Genji. It's the best.
I got so... I didn't get salty in chat or anything, but I was just like, at first I was angry. I'm like, this lucky son of a bitch that he did a second time, and I'm like, oh, he's just that good. And I mean, I just felt helpless because he's faster than me, and he outputs more damage faster if he combos properly. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my god, get away from me. No, Genji, please.
That's when you switch to McCree.
Flashbang.
Hope you don't flashbang into the deflect.
Does that actually work?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time.
Oh, that's gross.
You can deflect like anything. You can deflect Tracer and Zarya ults and Hanzo ults.
Think you can't deflect Reinhardt's hammer.
You can.
The hammer. You can?
Yeah, it'll block the damage.
Okay, yeah. That's one thing. It's another thing to reflect the damage.
Oh no, yeah, that would be nuts. Okay, we should move on from Overwatch.
Okay, I'll touch on Dota because last week I talked about the 20 billion tree challenge. Sorry, so the wise people of the Dota subreddit got together and created a script in which if you installed to your game files would then cause your Dota game to automatically start playing bot matches, make you pick a hero called Timbersaw, which specializes in jumping from trees and chopping down trees in order to give line of vision and do damage and all this stuff. And then that hero, then for the entirety of however long you have this script going,
10 out of 10 phone call.
Once again, another phone call, then just goes around chopping down trees. So while in the first week they only managed, I think it was 200 million trees, they are now currently this week up to 8 billion.
What the fuck?
Because some people have their computers running all through the night, just play Timbersaw and cut trees. And there's a hilarious story where a guy had this script going, and apparently the AI of the script accepted a party request from friends.
Oh no.
And then it picks Timbersaw and proceeds not to play and chop down trees for a 50-minute game.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
And his friends thought they were being trolled. So, yeah. So that's how Reddit is conquering Valve's impossible challenge. And
so, what's the total number of trees that they need? Like, have they already met it with the 8 billion?
They need 20 billion. They're up to 8 billion.
So they're getting there.
Bit by bit.
Dang. Okay.
Someday.
Soon.
One day, 20 billion trees.
Next week on Under the Radar, will the bots meet the tree chopping goal?
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Literally had Dropbox files in threads, and they're just like, everyone install this, please do this for us. So guys were like tracking their progress, seeing how many trees their bot could drop down, and some are up to like 20 million, some have 6 million. It's just hilarious.
Do they like risk a ban for that?
Since they're bot matches, I don't know.
I doubt it. If it's bot matches, yeah.
Yeah.
It is frowned upon, and you can be reported, but even in your reported matches, you can just still have that script chopping down trees.
Okay.
Which is kind of hilarious, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know.
Huh. Wow.
But anyways, moving on to another game that was released around the same time as Overwatch. Warhammer.
Wah!
So
No,
Hayden and I are probably going to nerd out pretty hard, but...
No. Tell me, what is this game? What is Total War Warhammer? I've never played a Total War game.
Okay, I'll get... Royds, are you versed in Warhammer?
I'm
Warhammer
not
lore?
versed in the Warhammer lore. I'm versed in the Total War.
So we're
course,
both Total War players turned Warhammer for the most part. So, Ginger, have you played like strategy games like maybe Civ before?
Yeah.
Okay, so your top-down map is like Civ when you're on the campaign map. The way you move your... except all your troops are stacked inside one unit, which is usually a general. And your tech tree is thus limited to the period, along with you managing your armies and your economies in different ways, because certain cities grow to certain sizes.
Okay.
What else am I missing, Hater?
I mean, that's about as brief as you can give for the campaign map synopsis. I really haven't played much Civ because I really don't like it, but Total War has...
I love Civ. Sorry for cutting you off.
That's all right.
So I'll let you take care of the Warhammer aspect of this, Hater.
I might be able to a little bit. I guess the other important part to mention, though, is there's that campaign map part, Ginger, and then what really sets Total War apart from any other strategy game is the fact that whenever, two huge armies meet in battle, you can fight that out real time on the battle map, and with that, you're able to pull, like, heroic victories out of your ass, like victories that if you just kind of let numbers decide it, you would lose. So I think that's really the biggest appeal of Total War is its battles.
Yeah, they do medieval strategy and logistics really well that way.
Yeah, like very, very specific tactics and troop movements and shit
victory
are required, yeah. And I think that's what most people like.
So when you're pushing the cutting edge and playing on like the top levels, it's not just unit versus unit, like smash into each other, lol, I win because I have the better unit. It's actually about positioning. Are your backs turned? Are they braced? Certain things like that.
Bonuses, morale. Yeah. Morale is huge. You can cause a mass rout if you do something right, So that's a big deal because a heroic sort of victory on the battle map translates to a victory on the campaign map, and then a whole bunch of things change. So that's basically the unique part of what makes Total War Total War.
And winning is really important because, at least in Warhammer, you gain gold from winning, along with the ability to choose whether you execute who you captured, employ them in your service, or let them loose for more money. Ransom them.
Yeah, ransom. But as far as the Warhammer aspect of it goes, I've actually never really been into Warhammer lore much. I've been into Warhammer 40k a shit ton. So if this was 40k, I could tell you a lot. But this is really, other than Vermintide, which I played when it came out, and a little bit after, I really haven't delved much into the Warhammer lore. So that part is going to be new to me. But the big deal about this is that this is the first Total War game that isn't based on actual history. Like every Total War game has been based on human history at some point in time. So feudal Japan during the Sengoku Jidai, Rome the Roman Empire,
Medieval times.
like those pretty big classical eras that most everyone kind of knows about. Yeah. So this is the first non-historical base, like it's total fantasy, and that's a big deal.
Magic is quite powerful because in some games, in some strategies, grouping up is hugely important because it allows you to protect all your flanks and stuff. Well, in this, it actually encourages you to spread out because certain heroes and witches and wizards have AoE abilities that will then wipe out half your army if you have them in like a solid block, and you're just sitting there watching like this tornado swing through it, and you're going, "Oh my god, what did I just do?"
Yeah. So I guess that's a basic synopsis of it. Total War Warhammer is a big deal because Warhammer itself, like that whole IP and Games Workshop's Warhammer shit, is hugely popular, and Total War has got its own hugely popular kind of formula. So combining those two, it's like first time this has kind of been done thing, and so far they've done pretty well. I think Royce has played a little bit more than me. It sounds like he's gotten farther, but
yeah. Hater, you ran into some glitches and some.
Yeah, I've fixed it by now, but for a while, like on the day it released, I had like horrible screen tearing on the UI elements, and I think quite a few people had that too. It seemed that the NVIDIA driver update fixed that. I was reluctant to do that at first because I knew it would fuck up Shadowplay and I want to be able to use it. And lo and behold, I just bit the bullet and was like, okay, I want to play Warhammer, so I'm going to update. And yeah, Shadowplay doesn't fucking work. So yeah. And I really don't know what causes it. I've tried like so many different things to try to get Shadowplay working and nothing's worked. So I just given up at this point. I just want to play.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues, and I think in my opinion, it's one of the best Total War games in a long time.
Yeah, so far I'm really liking it. I mean, I'm getting into the Warhammer lore, so I'm kind of taking my time to learn that. But as far as the Total War aspect of it goes, and the mechanics that make it a Total War game, I don't see anything wrong with it.
I think it's quite balanced. It's a lot of fun. The campaign map is quite challenging. You have to balance like certain religion things as well as the spread
religion, chaos, corruption. And I noticed it says like, you can't take certain settlements depending on your faction or race. So like
there are mods for that if you want to change that, but like dwarves cannot capture human settlements and humans cannot, dwell in the mountain.
Which like is interesting. Do. I like that. I think I'll definitely play a long while with that before even considering modding that, because every other Total War game being historically based has been you can just kind of do whatever you want, capture anyone's shit. Now you're kind of forced down that one way because of racial divides and stuff. So even if you're playing, I guess, a good guy campaign in some way, I mean, it depends on your faction, of course, but I guess your playstyle doesn't really matter because there's certain settlements you're going to have to either raise or sack or just leave alone because you can't capture them and, incorporate them into your empire. So that's a pretty big change in terms of the campaign for Total War games. But yeah, so far I like Warhammer. I'll take my time getting into it. But yeah. I'm I guess it's a bit of a shameless plug, but I'm an admin at Total War Center, and it's been a little bit hectic over there with the release of Warhammer, but not as much as I expected, so I guess that's kind of nice. But if anyone is really into Warhammer, go to Total War Center and do stuff. I'm looking at I'm actually looking at doing a whole bunch of shit in terms of content for the site itself, and I'm hoping for this podcast to kind of overlap that a little bit. So you might see this podcast on Total War Center a little bit in the future. We'll see.
I love the Total War Reddit currently because it's full of players like, what is Warhammer? The normal Total War vets, they're like, what is this shit? And then there's the Warhammer fans, which are like, what is Total War?
Oh my god.
How do I do this? How do I manage my empire? And how do I survive past turn 2?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Thankfully, even though I don't know much about the Warhammer lore, I think I have enough knowledge of 40k lore that sort of translates over to Warhammer Fantasy.
A
That
lot of
has
it
helped.
transitions. There's the flying units fuck with
Yeah.
strategy quite a bit, though, because before in classical times, like ranged units, you protect them from afar and stuff, but with flying units that
Oh, I'm
specialize
just gonna
in
go over
melee,
your spearmen now.
yeah,
Bye.
they're just like, lol, I'm flying. Hi, archers, let me land on your face. Cool. So it keeps it more dynamic that way and more interesting.
Definitely. So yeah, good first impressions overall. Yeah, Overwatch and Warhammer.
Yeah, we're just gushing. Look at us.
I know. Told you it was
It's
gonna be circle jerk. Sorry, everyone. Not sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Should we hit story time?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go to story time. Ginger, you go first.
Oh.
No, you go first.
Okay.
You didn't get to talk for the Warhammer as much, so we're gonna go with your long story first, end with ours.
Okay, so
Let me get popcorn.
this story. Okay, so this is the story of an interesting little shindig I had. Basically, I met this girl in one of my classes. I am a single Pringle right now, and we sat next to each other, and we kind of hit it off. We were like partners for a project. And, after class, we were heading out. It was lunchtime. We were both hungry. And, I was like, where you going? She was like, I'm getting lunch. And, right. And, like, if you're already in the same place and you're both hungry for lunch, I'm not going to call it a date. It was
totally a date.
It was a shindig. It was a thing of some kind.
Was there hand holding?
Huh. No,
was there shoulder touching?
There was none of that yet. So this little pseudo date, I'm gonna call it, is this story. Basically, we head out of the class. We're walking there. Things are going pretty well. First off, so she is a Japanese transfer student, and at first, like, when I first met her, I kind of like don't connect as well with. Sorry, I don't want to sound racist. Basically, if you don't go to a university with a big Asian population, like a lot of what will happen is, at least at my university, people will come over and they will sort of clump up in a group because they're not used to the language. They'll clump up in a group with people from where they're at. Like it's what I would do if I were in Japan and I had the option of living with a whole bunch of Americans versus a whole bunch of people who spoke Japanese and were Japanese or whatever. I would obviously choose the Americans. So they clump up pretty tight and generally don't open up to Americans that much. She was totally an exception. She was super cool and interesting and curious, asking a ton of questions, that sort of stuff. And her English was better than most. So it was going well, right? Good beginning of the date. So we went to like a Chinese place, which is hilarious. Like she can't find good Japanese, which will actually be a point in the story. So yeah, we go to one of those like crappy Chinese places where like, the tables are kind of sticky because there's too much bleach in the cleaner and the beef is suspicious.
MSG.
One of those, a little bit. So we go to one of those, and we order food, and we get to talking. And one of the things I ask her is, what are your plans after college? Because she's from Japan. She might just move back, and it's a good date question, right? So she says, well, I want to stay in America because she doesn't need to go back to Japan really for family reasons. And also, she says the pay is better in America, like substantially. You get more money for your time in America. She said, but I am very passionate about food, and the food situation here is not good. And I think I'm quoting her almost verbatim there. And I say, well,
not good.
I don't really question it at first because I'm like, okay, well, we're in a shitty Chinese place. I can't think of any good Japanese places around, and maybe she's just very passionate about food. She just wants some authentic home cooking. Maybe I wouldn't choose my country for that, but fair enough, I guess. So we kind of leave it and we talk about some other stuff. And then I'm sort of taking a glass of water. I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to ask. And I ask what she meant by the food situation being not good. And she says, well, I can't afford the food at the Japanese market. Even though it's authentic, it's really expensive. Like an avocado is $3, or cucumber is $3 was the example she used. And she said, like, well, what do you eat? Because I've never been into a Western grocery store before either. She doesn't get how to shop, American style.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh god, I eat like Costco shit. Not the best.
Well, great for advice now.
Right. So I'm like, well, we'll get to that later. And she's like, okay, well, my solution to this, she's also in environmental studies, unfortunately, and they tell her that they tell you that it's not organic and happy. If it's Safeway, it's Hitler because it needs to be organic and everything, and you literally can't eat it if it's not. All that not fun nonsense, not totally nonsense, but if you're a college student, you need to get food somewhere. So she's never gone into a Western store, and she says, well, my solution is I only eat one meal a day. And usually it's just at one of these restaurants, or I buy from the market. And it's actually kind of a problem. My doctor is sick of seeing me and keeps telling me to eat more. In fact, a little while ago, I passed out and got taken to the ER. And I was like, holy shit. And this was the moment where I noticed she had blood spots on her neck, which I'm pretty sure are the little internal subcutaneous hemorrhaging you get if you don't get enough fruits and veggies. I don't know if it's a big deal that she had them on her neck. I'm pretty sure they weren't hickeys. She's single and everything, so.
It's bad, I'll say that.
Yeah.
But continue.
So that's where this went from 0 to 100. Really fucking fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she just, this was her one meal a day we were having. Suddenly I was like, holy shit, because she was there eating in front of me, and I realized she'd gotten kind of a lot of food, more than I got. And I was like, okay. So this is where I got to the how do I eat thing, because suddenly I'm like, I want to help you. Like, let me teach you how to eat, please, baby.
Those words exactly? Huh?
Yeah, no, totally. So we leave the restaurant, and I pay for her food because Jesus Christ. And
Jesus implored you? Really?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
We go to a Safeway, which I don't know if they're national, but it's your basic.
They are, but they're dying.
Yeah.
Slow death.
Yes. We go to a Safeway, and I, show her some fruits and veggies that are easy, and give her a couple of suggestions on college meals and stuff. And
ramen.
No.
That's a college meal. Don't lie.
It is, but yeah, I'm gonna have 2 meals a day. Ramen.
Ramen, yeah.
That's fucking good for you. Yeah.
It's an upgrade.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, we do that, and then I take her home, and that was it. So that was at the beginning of the quarter. So since then, it's it hasn't gone too much. She really liked the meal suggestions I gave her and everything. Apart from that, it hasn't really gone anywhere. It was
Is she
very
healthy?
Interesting. She is. Yes, she's eating.
Okay.
That
was my worry.
Right. I should have said that first. Yeah, she is. She is, in fact, eating more now. Yeah. And the thing about this, though, is that, you would hear the story and you would think that, how could you possibly not be feeding yourself? Like, yeah, it's one thing to be in another city, in another culture, but, you're starving yourself. Like, go somewhere with food and buy it. Like, you can't afford some sort of food. And at first I was talking to some people about it and thinking, like, maybe is she, depressed or something, or anorexic? She doesn't look anorexic. But I think actually, like, because she is totally on her own. She's getting money from her parents, but apart from that, she has no family around. She is in like a live-in house or an apartment or something, and to get anywhere, she needs to take the bus. And she has most of her friends are in Bellevue. She has nobody to turn to, nobody to fall back on. She's just in America. And in that scenario, I'm thinking, okay, if I were in Japan, like, I'm trying to actually conceptualize it. If I were in that scenario I'm just going to say Japan, like some well-developed city city in the country I know nothing about, I would probably be eating at McDonald's a lot. Like,
You eat what you know. What you know is there.
Right. You eat what you know, and it's a very different situation. I had never even considered that someone could be in that situation before.
It's definitely a new perspective.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was my that was my starvation pseudo date.
I was expecting a twist at the end there, but not that.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, okay, where are you going with this? Yeah. That wasn't as long as I thought it would be, but anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Mine is pretty short and sweet.
Go for it.
Okay. So I regularly play hockey every week, and sometimes it's co-ed, sometimes girls come up to skate, and usually they do all right. They can keep up with some of the older guys, because I play from anywhere from 20-year-olds all the way up to, we have a 65-year-old who plays with us and whatnot, and we just skate around. It's non-contact. It's hockey. It's just for fun.
Dropping.
Not exactly dropping. You have to pay, and there's a lot of times we go to. But it kind of the same concept. We still mix up all the teams and stuff. Every now and then, some of the disgruntled 40-year-olds get in a fight, and it's freaking hilarious. These fat asses going at it.
Old man.
Yeah. So anyways, we have... so I used to play university hockey. And pretty decent. I was all right, I guess. And there was this other guy. He played Div 1 until he hurt his knee. And he's about 6'5" and 265 to 270. Just a solidly built, massive mountain of a man, and he can fly. Like, he's not slow by any means. Like, he can just 3 steps and he's gone. And so I was playing defense on him. Little 5'10", me 205, outnumbered by this monolith, and I'm mirroring him from across the ice. And this one classmate of mine, her name is Alex. She's probably 105, 110 pounds, just thin as a rail kind of thing. And she's going up the middle, she's going to the net, she's got her stick down, she's ready for this. And I'm mirroring this big guy, and all my focus is attention on him. And all of a sudden I run into someone, and my arm shoots out as hard as I can push it in order to brace myself. And all of a sudden I see Alex go flying.
Oh,
I lit this little girl up. Oh my gosh. She flew a good 6 feet, and she just laid there. She's like, why?
Roids, you horrible, horrible person.
And everyone on the ice is laughing, and I'm beside Alex. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Oh my god. Yeah. She's kind of sitting there, like, curled up. She's like, why? She hasn't been back since. I feel really bad.
Roids confirmed worse than Hitler.
Yeah.
Abuser of women. She was okay too. She was fine.
Okay, good.
Why do all our stories involve hurting people in some way?
We're
Is that the theme?
fanatic on this show.
Yeah, because the word "oh yeah, so she's fine now" has happened twice out of 2 stories. We're 2 for 10.
Okay, if I say that at the end of my story, it might be weirder, but we'll give it a shot. I'll say that at the end regardless. Okay, so mine's pretty short, but this actually happened when I was coming back last week from my time with the EOD guys, and when I talked to you guys about blowing shit up and planes and all that. So I'm on the final leg of my like 3.5 hour drive back home through a shit ton of traffic, and it was not a great drive, scenic but shitty otherwise. So I'm about to get home, I'm like 10 minutes out from home, and I'm like, you know what? I haven't eaten yet. I pretty much never get fast food or anything because I just don't like it. It gives me horrible shits, worse than MREs, which also suck, by the way. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna get Wendy's. So I go through the Wendy's drive-through. I'm waiting in line there, and the lady in front of me pulls up to the speaker, stops and starts taking her order. And I have my window down because I'm like, okay, I'm so close to food. I just want to get food and go home. And I hear the first words out of her mouth are, okay, so I'm on a low carb diet, so I'm gonna have a very specific order for you. Do you think you can get it down?
Okay,
And I just like,
I'm gonna interrupt. As somebody who's worked headset at Dairy Queen, fuck that.
so you know where I'm coming from.
Yup.
So that's what she opens up with, and I just sit there and I fucking facepalm. I'm just like, well, fuck. I'm gonna be here a little bit. Hopefully not too long. I'm just gonna cross my fingers and hope for a little bit of help here. Anyways, she starts off with that, and she's just like, okay, so I have like the jalapeno wrap, but I don't want the buns. Can you just like wrap it in the thing? I don't even know what she was talking about at this point, but she's like just doing that very specific bullshit about how she wants her fucking burger. And then she moves on to the fries in the same way, and then she moves on to the drink in like the same way, and she's like asking how big the medium is compared to the large. And then she asks like, what are the calories in the fucking blueberry pomegranate versus the green tea, and just shit like that. And I'm like, this lady can't be serious. Like, this feels like one of those stories you hear from the internet, or just that are so far out of line that it just sounds crazy. And I'm like sitting here, this is happening in front of me. She's just going through it. So she finishes what sounds like, a full meal for her. I'm like, okay, you're on a low carb diet. That's a pretty big meal. But now it's my turn. And she's like, okay, so that's the first part of my order. So the second meal, I'm going to need... And she goes through it again. And at this point, I stopped listening to what she was saying because I just rolled up my window and put on the brake and just listened to music for... I counted 6 minutes. I was waiting behind her from the moment she started. I was just like...
How long was she checking out, though, and paying?
About as long. So by the time I got up, I ordered. I was like, yeah, I'll just have the number 11. Give me the sauce. And yeah, I was done in like 15 seconds.
I need the sauce.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I said. And then I go up and I wait about another 6 minutes behind her while she gets all the fucking food she just ordered for her bullshit low carb diet. I don't care if you were getting it for family. That was way too big an order for you and like 2 kids and a husband.
Can I enlighten everyone, any of our listeners who has not worked in a fast food place? So, if, like, headset workers at fast food, there is a screen above the window that you can't see that is timing how long it takes for you to go through the drive-thru. And the headset people are rated at work, and their skill levels are judged and determined based around partially how quickly they can get people through the drive-thru. And there are these things, they're usually 5 minutes, called overs. If somebody's in the parking lot for over 5 minutes, there's a big over count that'll stay there for the rest of the shift. That's the first place everyone looks to see, how did the shift go? How good's the headset person, right? And in some places, that can really screw with people's, how their day went. So, like, it's a pretty big deal. So what you should really be doing is if you're ordering for a group or you have a specific order like that, go inside the store. Like,
Order ahead or go in ahead.
Yeah, order ahead or go walk into the store and do your crazy order with the cashier. Like, that's what they're there for. That lady, and Hater, you cost them an over too, just by being behind her. That's the other thing, is everyone who was waiting behind them will also eat that time. So that one lady who took like 12 minutes.
It's not my fault, I swear.
Yeah, like if anyone was behind you too, that also tanked it. So that just ruined the day for them.
Yeah, it was like 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7. So it was that kind of dinner time rush. So yeah, that person got fucked. But yeah, that's how that went. And okay, into the story. It's got a kind of a nice ending. She finally fucking left with all her goddamn food. I pulled up. I got my food, and the lady who handed it to me, I think she was a manager, just based on her name tag looking more special, but she handed it to me and she was just like, "Here, it's on the house. My brother's in the Air Force. Thank you for your service." And I'm just like, "Oh shit, I'm still in uniform because I just drove back from Pueblo." Like, totally skipped my mind. So that was nice. So thank you to that nice lady who did that to me.
That's really cool.
And by the way, she's healthy.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I hope she's fucking dead.
Still out there ruining people's queue times.
Oh yeah. So yeah, there's my story.
Oh goodness. I guess we should wrap it up.
Definitely. I think we went over an hour again.
Oh yeah.
So I'll do the outro again. All right, we had topics, and this week look. I'm so sorry. Our first email of season 3 was us making fun of your name and then disagreeing with you.
We love you,
I'm
really.
sorry.
We do.
That might happen. But it was good discussion. It was good material, and thank you for emailing. Shit, Troy. 1 sec.
He's got a FAP. Just give him a minute. He's real quick.
Troy. Yeah, I'm already done. So, email us a topic idea for...
1.
Thank you. Email us a topic idea. It doesn't have to be Planetside related, but it could be if you want our input on something. And we will probably make it a topic. If we don't make it a topic, we will definitely reply to you. It's utrpodcast@gmail.com. Just send us any of your thoughts, and we will bring it up on the podcast. utrpodcast@gmail.com. utrpodcast. Do it.
Oh, also.
Yeah.
I got an addendum to that. Pretty much every podcast, most of the podcasts we did in season 1 and season 2, I did this, and I've been doing it for these 3 so far in season 3. I've had whiskey, a full glass of whiskey that I've been drinking the entire time we're recording. So I'm just gonna ask people if you got a specific whiskey you want me to get. Every month I'll get a new one and save it just for the podcast, and I'll drink the whole thing before a whole glass's worth of it before we start recording.
It's a good idea.
And that'll be my thing. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, email and/or comment.
Also, if you have an idea for a brand of salt for roids, let us know.
I hear potassium. It's pretty hot.
All right. So that is that. YouTube-wise, I don't know. I'm probably going to start out the whole Overwatch shindig by streaming. We'll see if I'm able to make YouTube content. I'll probably just stream Overwatch. So you can find every time I'm streaming, I'll post something in my YouTube, temporarily. And then, Hater, are you doing anything?
As far as my personal channel goes, pretty much no difference from last week. I guess another shameless plug for Total War Center, but I finally got our YouTube and our Twitch and a whole bunch of other shit set up, and I'm really trying to find people to push forward with video content, and I'm gonna help with that sort of. There's an old podcast that our site had that's many years old, and it's kind of gone through its own stages like our podcast here has. It's called the Total War Cast, and just focuses on Total War shit. So we're looking at reviving that. I'm probably just going to be editing it, but I might be in it once or twice, depending. But I want to get that going. A whole bunch of other video content on Total War Center I'm hoping for. So look for that if you're interested. And if you're interested in helping, like seriously, I'd like as many people interested in doing that as possible. So that's kind of my non-podcast, non-under the radar podcast related goal for the next month or so. Now that Warhammer's out and everyone's circle jerking about that. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching, and remember
to keep it under the radar. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Under the Radar. Welcome back, and if you're new, thanks for coming. So, today we're going to cover a lot of topics ranging from, of course, Planetside to Dota, and our impressions on Overwatch and Warhammer. And the fucking phone rang. Jesus Christ.
Nope, it's too late. We gotta keep going.
You sure this would look great in the bloopers?
Oh my god.
I don't know. Okay. Bloopers.
Take 3. Whenever, the phone stops ringing.
Wasn't it the 3rd episode of the 1st season where we did like a million intro takes because we just couldn't get it? Was it the 3rd episode?
I don't know. I think it got to the point where I was intentionally trying to fuck it up.
It definitely got to that point, but it was so funny.
I'm so salty right now.
You are a bitter old man, Roy. You should, you know what you should do? You should go back and watch like our first couple episodes and just listen to yourself and how like happy and cheery you were.
Now you're the salty old man.
The joy is gone. Maybe it'll come back.
Dead inside. Dead inside.
Too much leading of people. Leadership kills dreams.
Apparently.